I didn't know what this was. Now, look, again, we were doing the show, other shows like it. We were, focused on other things. And, when this was going on, I was hearing control your narrative, this and that. And it was basically like lads who were fired when all those firings happened in WWE. Braun Strowman, for some reason, was hanging out with EC3, and I just didn't look into it because I didn't know what
Matt
it was, and I didn't have the
Cardona
interest for it.
Austin Aries, and it's a real strange crew.
Here's the thing, though, right? So in hindsight, you can tell that it's a bad idea. But this article from the Sportser is at the time people saying this is a bad idea. So it's kind of like looking at the Titanic and people like, oh, that's a bad idea, folks. Maybe don't. Maybe pack some
Don't get
lifeboats.
on that. There's no lifeboats on that thing, lads.
That's a bad idea, And I just think it's incredible that like the run of this promotion, it was so short-lived and so haphazard put together that it was falling apart as it was going on. And I think it's only 3 months. So I really wanted to get your opinion on this, Martin, because the way when I show you this stuff, you're like, what the hell is going on? I think it's wonderful.
Well, you had to get my opinion on it because you needed an expert. And as you know, I recently got my PhD and I am now a fully qualified proctologist, which is exactly what you would need because I have never in my life seen a promotion so far up its own hole.
Well, here's the thing. Before we get into how bad it was, I just love this here because this was on Reddit. It was like, in a few sentences, can someone explain what the hell control your narrative is?
No.
And some of them are great. Like, it's ECW for MAGA people. Guess that doesn't work for me, brother. It was too long of a name. So yeah, there's a few other ones here where it's just like, okay, Dead in the Water is quite fun. I like that one. That's a short one. It's ECW for MAGA people. Any research I've done in this has thrown this up again and again and again. And I don't really understand why. I mean, I don't understand how that kind of, where that comes from. Because when I was watching the show, and we did have a look at one of the shows, it's like matches that you can't see because they're in the dark.
You
And
can't
then there's
hear
like,
them because they have a narrator, not
you have a narrator.
not a commentator who
No, a narrator.
talks over the match, explaining what's happening. A narrator who just waffles over the match about like this real philosophy 101, like high school philosophy stuff, would look at it like someone's in a submission hold and he's not talking about the submission hold or whether or not he's going to tap out or what the stakes of the match are. It's like, pain is only in your mind, and the mind is in the sky. The sky are the stars, and you are a star, but you're looking down at the stars because you are a god. What?
So look, I don't know where the QAnon stuff comes from. Is it the presentation or is it?
No, I think I was actually looking out for a lot of that stuff.
Because I was looking up for this as well. Like, I mean, it's a funny meme,
it's
but
not
it doesn't it's not in the material, right?
It's not in the material. Do you know what it is? It's the wrestlers themselves, even though they didn't make it part of the show, because we have Twitter and all now. Everybody knows what wrestlers think about everything, and several of the wrestlers, EC3 and Braun Strowman, and different ones who were involved at like the founding of Control Your Narrative were all like real conspiracy loons, MAGA heads. Anti-vaxxers.
So that's the bit that I was confused by because I kept sitting here waiting for it. I'm like,
yeah. If you weren't on Twitter, you that would not be your impression of the show.
So these guys on Reddit were obviously like following what they were doing, right?
Yeah, these judgments are made based on what people know about the fellas behind it, rather than the actual.
So that doesn't answer the question, folks. What are you doing? I still don't know what it is.
Exactly. That's why when you said, "Can you explain Control Your Narrative in a few sentences?" No. Because it takes, like I said earlier, it takes a 20-minute YouTube video.
Okay, so
to adequately explain what this is.
I did try to take the easy road here and go on Reddit and see what happens, but they were, the jokes are funny and they are quite funny, but it doesn't answer the question. So I'm still perturbed here. So look, up on the screen now, there are the
Do you know
rules.
what I would describe it as?
Go on.
EC3's vanity project.
I think the closest thing is that doesn't work for me, brother.
That's a good one. I really like that one.
That's a really good one.
It's so serious and thinks so highly of itself.
You think that you think they believe it? You think
I don't know if you didn't believe it. I don't know how you could go out and do something like the show we watched. How you could do that and not think yourself a complete fool if you didn't wholeheartedly believe in what you were doing. But I think okay, so for those listening, we watched it's Control Your Narrative, Free the Narrative. Yeah. And the style of presentation, it really has to be seen to be believed. You hit play and you look at the timer and an hour and 27 minutes. Well, this would be a nice snappy pay-per-view, a couple of real hot matches, get through them. No, it starts off with a 20-minute video package, and about 17 and a half minutes of it is literally EC3 waffling into the camera. And I mean, do you know the way he used to accuse like the Attitude Era Undertaker of what the Ministry of Darkness Undertaker of total nonsense, or people used to accuse Bray Wyatt of just absolute meaningless jibber jabber. No, this is a whole new level of just meaningless waffle. Like loads of terms that he thought sounded cool, but that when you stop and think about them, don't mean anything. Basically a less intense Ultimate Warrior promo, but for 20 minutes.
And he believes every word that he's saying.
He 100% believes it.
The weird thing about it is, so I'm trying to look here on Cage Match for a rundown of the matches. They just don't exist. The actual websites are.
If you think that's bad,
the websites are malware.
Yeah, if you think that's bad, this is how little information there is on Control Your Narrative. I suspect that some of the people involved in it actually tried to scrub it from the internet because it doesn't even have a Wikipedia page.
As I said, you go on the websites and Google won't let you because it thinks it's malware.
Yeah, I think those involved in it were so embarrassed by it that they had it scrubbed from the internet.
Why do you think?
Why do I think they were embarrassed by it?
No, sorry, I wasn't clear. Why do you think they went along with it? Surely when
WWE had so here's the thing: is this company had everything going for it. All it had to do was not be complete jackarsery. But Control Your Narrative came about because WWE fired hundreds of wrestlers in a pandemic when there was nowhere else for them to work. It was in the long list of scummy things they've done, it was probably the top 3, top 5 scummiest thing. So these wrestlers had a lot of public sympathy, a lot of public support. They could have really made something that people, even if it wasn't great, people would have supported it just to support them. But the fact that it failed so incredibly and so quickly is a testament to how unlikable it was, to how unwatchable it was because of the weird production choices from the deep blue light that would sometimes shine directly into the camera and you literally couldn't see what was going on, to the narrator who would talk over matches, to the matches being weirdly edited, almost like cinematic matches, like they would have.
That's the thing. And that was probably because of the pandemic, where we were kind of used to these. Like we got them as WrestleMania main events, so it wasn't too
Yeah,
far outside what they were doing. But look, cage match actually, I found the cage match for it. So we can have a look here. There were only 5 matches on it, and they weren't long. I mean, Moose was there, EC3 was there, Mark Cardano, was the main
Matt
event.
Carter. Yeah, there's some real top talent. Scotty Too Hottie. How do you screw up a show with Scotty Too Hottie on
Well, you have someone talk over Scotty Too Hottie for
it?
the entire time.
And you don't let him be Scotty Too Hottie. You do
No.
this real serious, deep, faux philosophical um, narrative over his match. That was the other thing about it. I never want to hear the word narrative again. It's like after WrestleMania, I never want to hear finish the story again.
Oh
I
yeah.
never want to hear the word narrative again because everything was control your narrative, free your narrative. This is the narrative. We are your narrative. Be your own narrative. Dude, shut up. It's like when someone says banana over and over and it loses all meaning.
Jiminy Jillikers. Jiminy Jillikers. Jiminy Jillikers. Okay, so look up on the screen before we get into it. We have the rules and regulations of CYN, and for that, we'll just call it CYN. So we're not saying control your narrative over and over again.
Oh,
So
small mercies.
So Martin, what are the rules of CYN?
Well, just in case the kind of underground feel and the full philosophy and the super machismo of it all, just in case that hadn't tipped you off to what EC3's favorite movie might be, the first rule of control your narrative is that you control your narrative. The second rule of control your narrative is that you control your narrative. They saw Fight Club. They completely missed the meaning of it, and they said we'll build a wrestling promotion around our misunderstanding of this movie.
They're like, that movie? Yeah, that's my life now.
That's awesome.
But to be fair, you know what? They're like a lot of 14-year-old young fellas who find Fight Club and becomes their personality for like 3 years and then they grow out of it.
Yeah, it's like people who watch American Psycho and think Patrick Bateman's the good guy. Or
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, they're like, yeah, that's what we need to do. That thing. But you know what's funny, right? Like, it was kind of taken from a lot of like the Zeitgeist at the time, right? So cinematic matches were a thing that needed to be done because of the pandemic, obviously.
yeah,
And I do think when they work, they really work. When they don't, it can be a disaster. But I do think there's a place for them. Another thing is the underground stuff. I mean, WWE had the Raw Underground thing for like 2 weeks, and that was awesome. But then they stopped it. So I can understand where they're like, oh, look, this could work. But the wheels kind of fell off for this, where it was like, look, we have a hard and fast rule on the show. When the rules need to be explained on the screen, that is a bad sign.
that's
It's a bad sign. Like once you see like any kind of graphic on the screen where it's like, here are the rules, you're like, okay, we are in for some serious, you know what?
and that's bad enough when the rules make sense. But the control your narrative rules are, well, firstly, a lot of them are um, counterproductive or self-defeating. Like, so for example, rule 4 is standard professional wrestling rules apply for sanctioned matches. Chaos ensues in the project pit. So anything goes. It's going to be madness. This is a fight. Rule number 5: no super kicks, no tope suicidas, no Canadian destroyers.
But what about if you're in the project pit? Then can you do super kicks and Canadian?
Well, this is where it is entirely unclear. What these rules need is subcategories. Should be Rule 4A, Rule 4B, Rule 5 C. Yeah, Rule 5 C, Rule 4A, subsection A2.
Look,
So
and fundamentally, if so rule 6, if the fight is with your opponent, it isn't with your opponent, is with yourself. So does that mean if you beat your opponent, the opponent has won?
yeah, but see, that's what I mean. That's not even a rule. Then that's kind of just a like a philosophy or a you know like a pep talk or something. You know, like you're not going out there to fight whoever you're really struggling with yourself. And I mean, like, that doesn't make any sense to have in the rules. Because
Okay,
firstly, if I'm going out there and my true opponent is myself, I am doing the Kevin Nash, Hulk Hogan finger poker doom. I am putting myself over straight away. Like, I'm walking out of there with the title day one.
but here's another one, right? So fights will go on as long as they have to. Sanction matches will hit their times.
Yeah, what
What
does that
what
mean?
does that mean?
Is that like acknowledging that it's fake? You got you got 13 minutes, lads. Be in and out in 13 minutes. Is that what that is? Because if that's what that is, then why
I
was
really don't
Braun
know.
why was Braun Strowman out tweeting about it, going, um, so on? They had a show that was on WrestleMania weekend, and Braun Strowman was out tweeting about it, going, "Hey, anyone who wants to see any wrestling, Control Your Narrative is the only show worth watching this weekend because we don't do any of that namby-pamby ballerina crap that they'll be doing. We do real fighting." I was like, "No, man, it's wrestling."
And remember, if you want to control your narrative, you have to fight. So again, he saw
You have to
Fight
control
Club.
your fight, but you have to fight. You have to control your fight. No, if you want to control your narrative, you have to fight, but you have to fight yourself. But you can't super kick yourself unless you're in the project pit. Um, but actually, you can super kick yourself because all rules are superseded by rule one, which is you are in control, which is itself superseded by rule two, which is you are in control. So there you go, folks. And if you think we're making this sound needlessly complicated, look it up for yourself.
So remember when
Uh,
Al Snow had the match with himself
yeah,
for the hardcore title?
that was entertaining.
Yeah, like why did that work? And why does this not
Well,
work?
he,
Because, like
genuinely,
Al Snow
what I think
literally
is,
wrestled himself,
but
and that
genuinely,
was awesome.
what I think is the problem with it is, they took, like you said, things that were popular at the time that would have actually worked. The underground aesthetic, the uh, kind of lean towards cinematic matches. If they had taken those and made them elements of the promotion
Right.
rather than the be all and end all, um, I think it could have worked. Like those things would have worked if they'd been woven into a promotion that was doing all the other stuff
Right.
people liked, you know. But they made it their entire and sole identity. And the other thing is that they did cinematic matches in just the most boring way possible. I mean, if you're going to be the company that specializes in and does all cinematic matches, go all out with it.
They
I don't
really
want to
are.
see 6 cinematic matches in a row in the same poorly lit warehouse. Like,
See, that's the thing.
get
You
out
can't even.
into a under the roof of a shed in a farm and find a military facility somewhere that'll let you wrestle on a tank, or like,
But here's another missed opportunity. I think Bray Wyatt was fired at this time as well. Where was he? Where was Matt
he took
Hardy?
Bray Wyatt was a smart man. He took one look at it and said, "Nope,
No, but
gonna
that's what I'm
sit it
saying to you.
out."
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's like the guys who could have done it: Bray Wyatt, Matt Hardy. Um,
Yeah,
you
they're
know,
all available.
they were all available. They're all sitting there. I mean, this was like they've done this in TNA, they've done it in WWE, they did a little bit in AEW, but not obviously not as much because it just does not work in AEW, but works mainly in TNA and WWE. Like, but I don't know, the guys who could have done this properly weren't used, and that was the first thing when I was watching this. I'm like, okay, all these matches are the same. I can see half of them. because that shadow was just in the way.
And
You
the
cannot
worst
see
thing about
anything.
that is that that's not even like, oh, we just didn't have the money for that. Is a production choice they
Choice.
made.
That is a choice.
Bizarre.
Yeah, they have,
Bizarre.
and I mean, like, look again. Lucha Underground did stuff like this, but it, it was still legible. This is just awful. Like from
Oh,
step to step. And
you literally can't. So half the time you can't see like at all what's happening. But
look,
even when
we
you
could
know,
go.
but even when you can see, the
Hmm,
light is that real deep dark blue. Everyone looks the same, so you kind of can't make out which guy it is you're even looking at.
that's the problem. You're like, how are you supposed to? Again, it has to be the choice, right? Like, how can you cheer for someone? And I think maybe that's what it is. Like, this could be a case where it's so. You know what this is? This is the wrestling equivalent of when that lad went in and put his glasses down at a modern art museum, and everybody just thought it was an exhibit, and just sat there taking pictures, and your man picked them up about 2 hours later and walked away. That's what this kind of is. It's like EC3, and I like EC3. I think he's one of the best TNA stars probably ever, but I think he just worked himself into a shoe here, where it's like, you know, oh, this is going to be wonderful, and we've seen what happens. You know, when ECW got to say goodbye their way, we got Hardcore Justice. When EC3 wanted to start a wrestling motion, we got this. But at least with Hardcore Justice, we're able to talk about the matches. I don't even know how we talk about a 2-minute match that nobody
Oh
could see.
no, I
I
didn't
mean, what were
even.
you going to say? I couldn't say it.
I took notes, but notes on the video. I have zero notes on any of the actual matches because not only is it hard to see them, not only are they done in this weird cinematic way, weirdly edited, weirdly shot, um, but they kind of start and finish out of nowhere. There's no lead up to them. Like one of the matches, so you get EC3's 20-minute rambling intro, and then he starts talking about like there's loads of insider knowledge, like or loads
Yeah,
of
it's
insider
very,
language. Like he's talking about,
very insider.
oh,
Yeah,
this guy's a good hand, but is he a jobber? This guy thinks he's got what. So the next thing it cuts to being
is
in a
he a
car,
jobber?
and you're yeah, like you're in this car then, and this guy's talking about like, yeah, man, we're hitting those roads, we're making those miles, making those towns, blah blah blah. And I'm sitting watching it, and I'm going, is this? Have we picked the wrong? Did Dara send me the wrong video, or? So I skipped forward 4 or 5 minutes, and it's still him talking, like just in his car driving down the road, like pointless waffle into the camera. Skip forward another couple of minutes, and the next thing, this match has just materialized out of nowhere. Like no entrances, no big, no. This is such and such. It's just started. In fact, I don't even remember. Are there? Is there a referee in the ring?
There is. You can't see him though.
Oh, okay, right, right.
Yeah. Look, I mean, when I was watching this, I was like, there were certain things I was expecting. Right, wrestling was one of them. That didn't happen.
No,
Uh,
less wrestling than an average WWE show.
oh,
Mental.
it's insane. It's insane. Less wrestling than a WWE show during the Attitude Era. Right. I think it was the worst of
Not
like a
not,
lot
e-
of it.
not even a 3-minute road dog match.
No, just nothing. Like it was. I do have to say, look, this was in the middle of the pandemic. Like it was peak pandemic. I do admire that they did something. Right. I think it is. It does have creative merit. It's just
Oh,
extremely. It's just.
it's very different.
It's very different, and I can see this being like, okay, the difference here is there was no, like, the hand that was guiding it was like really, really, really misguided. Like it didn't know what it was. It knew, like, okay, the cinematic matches, and the only thing we can really compare this to are cinematic matches that happened at WrestleMania, really, right? And I know that's unfair because it's WrestleMania and they're using the WWE budget compared to whatever these lads could find in the couch. Um, you know, But at the same time, it's like they were still able to do it. They're still put on something. It's definitely a unique mark. But at the same time, we weren't able to see half it. We don't really know what it was about, and it never got over its entire approach. The thing going into it that I had was Braun Strowman is there for some reason, EC3 is there for some reason, and that was exactly what was met. This other stuff that we saw on Reddit, I wasn't aware of at all. I still didn't see any of it on the show, so I don't really know how relevant that was. It just comes off, honestly, as harsh as it's going to sound, like it was EC3's vanity project. And
It
that's
was.
really what it seems like.
Do you know what the other thing about it was? That so he obviously set this up after being released from WWE, and very bitter about that.
Yeah.
And as soon as it starts, you get this message at the very start, and the message at the start reminded me of: have you ever been on Tinder or Bumble or any of those dating apps, and you come across a profile that's all, ugh, so sick of this.
Oh,
No
yeah.
short gays, no time wasters. Don't even contact me if you're not willing to like have meaningful conversations. If you're not intelligent, don't even bother swipe. And you're like, who the hell is this arsehole? Swipe left. This starts off with like before anything starts, a warning comes up on screen that says, warning, control your narrative is for mature in capital letters and astute in capital letters audiences. It's not for children or weak minds. Goes on and on like that for about 40 fucking paragraphs. And then at the end, all you can hear in the background is EC3 going, you have been warned. Like, you
Yeah.
could have warned me that it was going to start with a 20-minute promo.
So the funny part of this, like the real funny part of this is, so Cage Match have the shows, and according to Cage Match, there are 10 shows, right, in total. They include some crossover shows with AML, and then also with GLCW. But there's like 10 shows overall, 6 core control your narrative shows, right? The funny part is this completely imploded as soon as Triple H got into power, brought back Killer Cross and Adam Shear. So once Cross and Braun Strowman were brought back under their actual gimmicks, so obviously Killer Cross and Adam Shear are Karrion Cross and Braun Strowman. Once they were brought back under their actual names, it was a death blow. Because Strowman very much was the face, the biggest star of the company next to EC3. And once he was brought back, it was done. So,
Yeah, to be honest,
look,
Strowman strikes me as the type who is like, whenever he was released, I was like, well, he'll either be back in WWE or he's done with wrestling forever. Because
I
he
thought
does
that
not
too,
strike
yeah.
me as the type who's going to, hit the road and do the indies and make the
Oh, sure,
towns.
sure. He'd made the comments less than a year before this about how he didn't have to do the indies.
Oh, on Twitter, he was
Yeah, that.
really, really horrible to indie, like really looking down
But
on
that,
indie wrestlers.
but that's why it was so surprising that this thing ever started. Because I'm like, I get it. It's like you know what this is? This is like the anti-indies, right? And I necessarily don't hate it. I just think, because I mean, I think everything should be. If this had worked, it could have been like, you may not know this. A couple of years ago, when Doug Williams won the X Division belt, he refused to have X Division matches. He was like, "No, we're gonna have straight wrestling matches," and that was the gimmick, right? So everyone had to wrestle him properly, like wrestle him in a wrestling match,
Yeah,
catch as catch can kind of thing. I can see that working. The issue here is it wasn't in good faith. It was like bitterness. It was like,
yeah.
indie-rific, bitter, bitter, bitter kind of thing. But it's like, okay, fair, you might think that, but
And
no one wants.
kind of sneering at your own audience.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody wants to be sneered at down that. I mean, if you had done this in a way that was like, this is a genuine alternative as like an art project,
Yeah.
Totally could get it. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't hate it fully because I'm like, it's so unique that I can't hate it. It's like, I really respect that you did this, but it's such a horrible mess and makes no sense that it's like, it's objectively bad. But it's not bad in the same way as Hardcore Justice was bad, or like December to Dismember was bad, where it's like, objectively, this is terrible. This was bad because the guy who was running it was like, I am so smart. Look how great I am. And I watched Fight Club 100 times. You know?
I didn't understand it once.
And I missed every single message in it.
And I've never read the book.
But yeah, look, in the space of like less than a year, like what, 10 months? Probably less. It had its initial run, you know, with the crossover shows. And then within exactly a year. Almost today, it came and went.
And
Had a
now
crossover shows, and
live
then
on forever
that
in
was it.
memes.
But see, will it? Because it shows up on these lists. It shows up on these lists. And that's how I heard about it. I don't remember who was making the list. If I find out who it is, I'll put it in the comment below. Or if you guys remember, put it in the comments below, because I might forget. But it came up on like inactive promotions, and I was like, oh, I never heard about this. We should talk about it and figure out. And it's the only time doing this show where I'm still confused about what the hell we watched. I have no clearer picture of this other than it had Braun Strowman in it, and EC3 for, you know, it was his project, and that's still what it was. You know,
Well, this is why the question, can you explain what Control Your Narrative was in a few sentences? The only answer is no, because even if you watch Control Your Narrative, it doesn't help you explain what it was. It's in fact, it's probably, to learn about Control Your Narrative, the worst thing you can probably do is watch Control Your Narrative.
It's like, you know, to understand the great beyond of Leviathan is to go mad, and that's kind of what this is. It's like you look into the void, the Lovecraftian void of Control Your Narrative, and you just go mad.
Yeah. You try to control your narrative, and your narrative controls you.
There you go. That's it. You know, why didn't they say that?
They probably did. It's full of so much like faux philosophy sounding bullshit. Like, it's unbelievable how much
So do you think
some of the sentences, like, you could just pluck them out of it, and they are just bullshit works of art. Like,
so what you think EC3 just sat there and, you know, look, we don't know, we're just making a joke, but you think EC3 sat there and, like, you know, maybe indulged in some substances and was like, yeah, brilliant.
I no, because you know what? I think if he indulged in substances, he would have, like, accidentally stumbled upon, you know, things that occasionally sounded profound or made sense. No, I think he got a philosophy book and he plucked random words out of it. He got a Nietzsche book, and then he dropped it in a puddle on the way home. And when he opened it, the pages came apart. So he just plucked random words out of it and just said those. Maybe it is genius. Maybe, like, yeah.
While watching Fight Club.
Yeah, while watching Fight Club, yeah. While making his own soap like Tyler Durden.
Oh, it's
because it veers into like so like a load of their politics are real, like right wing and QAnon and all that stuff. Like, as we said, that doesn't appear in the show, but you know, that's what they were like on Twitter. But
here's the thing. I mean, if that had been on the, show, it would have.
Would have at least been some. But loads of the stuff that they're saying is like really anti-capitalist in nature. Like, but I don't think they realize that.
See, that's the thing. I mean, when I was watching the show, I was expecting something like that, where I'm like, oh, there must be something on this that has rubbed these people the wrong way to bring that up.
I was expecting it to be loads of like, this is real wrestling. It's not for woke blue-haired libtards, or, you know, I was expecting something like that.
Something. But
no,
you know, even
that is in it.
I think it's unfair to call ECW for MAGA, because it's like at least for ECW you got matches. You know,
Yeah.
you got other stuff. You didn't get nothing for like an hour.
Oh my god! And like how much I criticize those WWE pay-per-views for having like 40-minute gaps between matches. What I wouldn't have given for a nice breezy 40-minute gap between matches watching this.
But even still, like so I again, the memes and the jokes are quite funny because they genuinely are. But I think it's disingenuous to like use them as a critique, as a description rather, because it doesn't do justice to what's on the screen. Like when you're watching Raw again, where there was like 2 minutes of wrestling, at least those segments, stuff was happening, stuff that you could actually see, stuff that you could actually engage with.
Yeah.
Like we've gone back and we've had a look at these Raws and they're car crash TV, and it's an hour of like nonstop bang, 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 this happened and this happened. And you're like, cool, we have to talk about. On this show, I cannot tell you one thing that happened that wasn't someone driving or saying nonsense into a camera.
And
That's
even
all.
like like people criticize certain aspects of WWE, even like when Vince was commentating and he was going, "What a maneuver! What a maneuver!" At least he was talking about the match. At least he wasn't there going, "What a deep, profound thought about the inherent meaningless of existence." What? No, maneuver. Tell me about the fucking maneuver.
You know what? You know how this would have worked? And we're going to do some fantasy. I don't think this has ever been done. Fantasy booking of control your narrative, right? It's a standard indie wrestling show. Opens up, standard indie wrestling show. Have Scotty 2 Hottie there. Scotty
Oh,
2 Hottie
perfect.
against someone, right? Have this match happening, right? And then as the match is going on, the feed slowly gets more and more corrupted, right? More and more corrupted as it's going on. And as it's going, it reveals to be EC3 talking absolute nonsense, right? And have that happening intermittently where the feed is constantly getting hijacked by EC3, and it's not like, it's not like a proactive thing. It's just you're watching the show and it's just getting more and more weird. And then it ends with some big angle that happens, you know, clearly it
Yeah.
builds up to something. There were something like that would actually make sense. I don't know if you've seen Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, or Too Many Cooks. Those kind of mid 2010s viral,
Yeah.
where
Too
it's
many
like
cooks. Too
exactly where
many.
it's like a standard thing and it gets more and more weird as you're going on. That's what they could have done. That would have been
Yeah.
interesting. That actually would
Yeah.
have done something,
It's like
instead of
we were
just
saying
nothing.
earlier. If you're going to be the cinematic promotion, then like own it. Be the cinematic promotion.
And that's what I'm saying.
Um,
Like that idea took me off on the spot straight away to just kind of go through it. And at least
I
then it would,
suspect somehow though you still spent twice as long on it as EC3 did.
as I said, and I wouldn't mind because EC3 is a great talent, great wrestler, good promo, but wrestling visionary, maybe not. Maybe not. The question I have on this, Martin, to finish it out, what could they have done differently? I mean, like they're resetting here. Okay, so they're resetting here. They have X amount of money. They have the same talent. What could they have done differently? And don't say everything because that's the right
Yeah.
answer. But
um no, I mean like to be genuine, like they could have embraced um the cinematic nature of what they were doing and they could have used that to their advantage rather than almost being hindered by it by having every match be the same style, the same shooting, the same guy talking the same crap over it. I mean, if the whole thing is about controlling your narrative and about creativity and about freedom to express, whatever it is you want to express through wrestling, like then they should have opened it up. It should, if it's going to be this is the promotion run by wrestlers doing what they want, then they should have done that. They should have said go and be as creative as possible. But
yeah,
instead they did a weird Fight Club ripoff. And the problem was, or one of the problems was that they do all this real deep, not like faux deep, philosophical talk about change and about how this is nothing you've ever seen and how this is different from everything else. And then when the match starts, it's a wrestling match. It's a wrestling match like any other wrestling match.
Well, there's no super kicks. There's no
Although
Canadian
no super. Well, no, there is because you are in control.
And the match is against yourself.
And yeah, exactly. Before we go, the one thing I wanted to ask you was one of the ways they tried to differentiate themselves was at their shows. Do you know the way you can have a meet and greet with a wrestler, like if you pay a wee bit extra? At their shows, one of the things they had was a rant room, and a rant room was you would pay a certain amount of money, and then you would be allowed into a room with another wrestler, typically one who you hate, and you would be allowed to say, scream, shout, sing, whatever you want at them for 3 minutes with no consequences.
Can I get that with Cody Rhodes?
I was just about to ask, who would you have that for, and what would you do?
Oh, Cody Rhodes and then Tony Khan. Can we do that? Can we? Let's tweet Tony Khan. I have an idea for you, buddy.
Bring back Control Your Narrative.
No, not that far. Bring back the rant room. I would pay legitimately serious money for that. Like more than a ticket for wrestling. For that.
Well, like, one of their like Control Your Narrative, like it's not.
I take it all back, Martin. I take it all back.
You love it now.
I love it now.
I know they had some big names, but they were selling tickets for $99 for one of their shows.
Okay.
Come on,
imagine to see what? To see shadows?
I know you're the anti-indie, but you are still an indie. Like, come on.
You're still an indie. You know what though? There are two ways of looking at this, right? Either it is what we think it is, right? Like the most logical, what's Occam's razor, the most obvious answer is probably true.
The simplest answer is probably the truth.
So I do believe that this was just a vanity passion project that got way out of hand, or is a joke that went way too far, right? But on the other hand, it also could be genuinely a visionary thing that we just don't understand. So I leave this to you, audience members, to debate below. Please do. What do you think? Do you think this was like that we just don't get it? It's like modern art to some people, where they're just like, it's just.
Do you know what? If enough people in the comments say that, I'm willing to accept that, because I went to see that film, and I used to be a film reviewer, and I went to see that film, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, and when I come out of it, I had literally no idea what had just happened.
I mean, so it can happen.
I'm fully prepared to admit that I'm just an idiot, and maybe it went completely over my head.
See, that's it. So I would love to know what you guys think below. And if you're listening to this on the Spotify, go over to our YouTube channel, Nerd to Know Media, and then leave a comment below. Do we just misunderstand this? Is this like high art?
Is there a die-hard CYN fan out there? Is there someone walking around in a Control Your Narrative t-shirt who rewatches the pay-per-views, who has the
10 to watch,
a framed picture of himself at EC3 in the rant room, is there a die-hard CYN fan out there?
I wish. I really hope so.
If that's you, get in touch. We want to talk to you, but only via Zoom.
So many questions, but that rant room, I genuinely think Tony Khan would be onto money there, or WWE. Like 3 minutes, just tell Cody Rhodes how bad he is and how he should be Stardust again. I think I could convince him in 3 minits to be like, "Hey, buddy, maybe it's time to put the face paint back on." He's
so smug though. He just spent it all like going, "Ah, oh, good one, yeah, pal. I'll think about it.
I'll think about it."
Yeah,
just keep paying. Just keep paying to go back.
Yeah, like a fella at a strip club, just constantly putting fivers down. No, come on, come back here, sweetheart. I want to tell you why your entrance music is shit.
Come back here and I tell you why it should be Stardust.
Um,
We ain't done yet.
I was whenever I first saw that, I was like, oh, I'd love to get Punk in there and have a go with him. And then I was thinking, no, actually, do you know what? He would love that. That like he'd be all over that. He'd
Yeah.
be
You
he'd
can't
be
hurt Punk like that. It
yeah,
wouldn't
he'd be
work that way.
discounting it. So
Yeah,
I actually don't like if I was going to do it. I don't. Who would I? I don't know who I'd have. Do you know what I wouldn't pick anyone I hate to give out to them.
would you
I
not go
pick
for Vince?
No, God, no! I'd be afraid of being raped. Um,
Allegedly.
I'd go for wrestlers who just had done stuff that was inexplicable, and I just asked them to explain why did that happen in that match. Like I'd get Ric Flair in there, and I wouldn't like berate him or anything. I'd be like, why were you in a steel cage barbed wire match? And then the barbed wire came down, and then it wasn't a steel cage match anymore. Why did that happen?
You could ask the Dudleys about the electrified cage match.
Why is Devon's arse made of rubber? Is that why he didn't get electrocuted whenever he was dragging it along the cage as he climbed the ropes? I'd love to ask questions like that.
All I'm saying is there's money to be made here, folks. Wrestling
No,
companies need to get on that.
I've got it. I've
Go on.
got it. The person that I would have in the rant room and would genuinely berate them and tell them how shit they are is the company that was responsible for the exploding ring at Revolution. That's who I'd have. I'd have the CEO in there telling them what a fucking arsehole he is.
I thought you were going to say Goldberg.
Oh, Goldberg!
Goldberg's the obvious answer, right?
Yeah, although Brett's berated him that much over the years. He's probably immune to it.
Oh, but see, not only could you get him with Bret Hart, you could also get him for like killing the Fiend.
Oh God, yeah. Or what was the WCW pay per view watch where we were like, we just had enough because Goldberg was like,
There was a lot of them. There was a lot of them.
no, but there was one that really annoyed us because it wasn't even about like bad booking or stupid like shoot storytelling. It was like a real fuck you to the fans. It was like Goldberg looking directly down the lens of the camera and being like, "Oh, I'm going home" or something. It was
Had to be something from 2001 anyway.
oh, it was one of the it was one of the very last pay-per-views.
Could have been Sin or Greed.
I think it was just before because Sin and Greed actually started to get better because
So
they
then it would have
cleared
been
out.
it would have been the mid late 2000 then.
Yeah, it was one of the more traditional WCW ones. But
I'll have to have a look. I'll find it again.
yeah,
I'll have a look this week and see.
I'd quiz him about that maybe.
That's fair. That's fair. But like, explain to me WCW 2000, please. just go on.
I know we only have 3 minutes at a time, but don't worry, I have £40,000 with me.
Just keep refilling that meter. But as I said, again, AEW, WWE, you can make money there super easy. Think about it, fans would love that. They'd love it. You know?
I think it would be a matter of days, if not hours, before either a fan or a wrestler was stabbed.
You obviously have them behind glass. Don't like.
Oh, like a seedy peep show.
Oh, I was more thinking.
Dance for me, Orange Cassidy.
I was more thinking some kind of like, you know those movies
like
that have two-way glass.
Like a prison visit.
Yeah, there you go. Putting them in the same room as like unprotected is probably a terrible idea. But and also this was during COVID, so it's like it's even more of a bad idea, right? Surely. I don't know. Control your narrative. We still don't know what it was, folks. We really, really don't. But thank you so much.
We will get there, and that's why this is part 1 of a 40-part series.
That of a company that has 10 shows.
Four of which are crossovers.
And that they last an hour each. Actually, there's a channel I watch, Mauler on YouTube, and he has a 15-hour review of The Force Awakens.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he really hates The Force Awakens, as do I, as should you all. But I suppose you can make, you know, hate content, so we could do it. But I'm not putting myself through that, Martin. I really amn't. I'm just not. I mean, control your narrative. I think it has its place in wrestling history for how weird it is, for how
Yes.
groundbreaking it is in certain ways, but also it's a cautionary tale that if EC3 shows up and he's like, I have an idea, and a warehouse appears, you run away.
It
Run
has
away.
its place in wrestling history, and its place is in wrestling history.
Exactly, thankfully. But Martin, is there anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
No, the Summer Games Fest is currently on. So as soon as we get off here, I'm going to log on to it and give it a go because I hear a cheeky rumor. Everybody calm down. Hold on to your butts. That new Power Wash Simulator DLC is being released. So
Fantastic. Looking
that's my
forward to it.
summer.
Looking forward. That game is incredibly satisfying. Like House Flipper, also a really good game too. Folks, thank you so much for checking us out here on Phoenix 92.5 FM, the Wrestling Rewind, the WrestlingRewind.com, and of course, if you're checking us out on YouTube, please subscribe, like the video, leave your comments below. We'd love to hear from them. If this is your first time checking us out, thank you so much, and we'll be back next week, probably live, and we're going to do this more often here on YouTube and Twitch. So we will talk to you next week. Bye, guys.
Control your